Hi everyone, what's up? Well, today's the 14th of March. We had very good weather up to this point, where we had plus 11, plus 13 degrees Celsius. So that's around 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And now we're going back to our old cold weather, and it's snowing outside. Darn it. Just when I thought it was spring. And then it pulls a fast one on you. So I haven't been making any YouTube videos for a while, and today I'm going to be filming another Mythbuster video. So in this chapter, Mythbuster Video 40, I did promise earlier that I was going to do a refresher on the Brachypelma genus, but I feel that I might want to skip this one just for 41, because I feel that this is probably more important, and I have the evidence and stuff to show you, and I may or may not get the opportunity to film this again. So, as you've probably seen on RobC's channel in his 2009 uploads, he had a video called Slings Caresheet. So, my Mythbuster Video 40 is going to focus primarily on that. So, I'm basically going to go in depth of how to make tarantulas, the conditions of mating, the gestation periods. This is something I touched up earlier in the video I did 3 months ago, called the tutorial on basics of tarantula mating, since I do get the same questions keep popping up over and over about how to tell if females are mature and how do you make them and how often. So I'll be touching up on that. The time of day, the conditions of the mature male and the mature female, how many times you should mate them, the gestation periods, the sac, very important topic, and important in debates, the leaving it with the mother versus the incubator setup, which is right over there, and maintaining the eggs and then feeding and selling them. Okay, so away we go. Okay. So now for topic 1, how to identify a mature male and a mature female. Okay, so we're on the marker board, and we are going to fill this table up. So everyone pretty much knows what a mature male looks like. They generally have the following characteristics. Okay, so pretty much everyone knows what a mature males look like. So they're generally smaller bodied, or long-legged. They generally have a small abdomen, usually. All of them have bulbous pedipalps, which are the feelers. They kind of look like they're wearing boxing gloves. And sometimes they have tibial hooks on most species. Species like Poecilotheria, Heteroscadra, Theraphosis species, except for Apophysis, do not have tibial hooks. And they're aesthetically different from the females, meaning that they're sexually dimorphic. So I'll give you a quick example of a species that is sexually dimorphic. So I'll visit you Jason's mature male and my mature female, a Chalcodes Desert Blonde. So this is his male, the one that's pretty nervous when it comes to mating. You can tell he's a lot darker colored than the female. That's my female. Notice how bright her colors are. He's completely different. As you can see, he has longer leg, he has small body, he has a small abdomen compared to the female. And you notice that he has tibial hooks, as you can see over there, and bulbous palps. Kind of look like he's wearing boxing gloves. Here's another example of, the Pyragalis, the Indian ornamental. I'm not sure if you can actually see him because it's really dark. But you can see he is much more brown compared to the mature female. Mature females are really colored really well. I have a picture. There she is. There's my mature female. And it's very likely to be gravid. Sweet. And for an example, a sexually non-dimorphic species, meaning that the males and the females are going to look totally identical to each other, except that when they fully mature out, is your common Brachypelma genus, you know, like the B. smithi, the B. bomi, the B. amelia, the vagans, the Grammostolas, like the G. rosea, the Pulchripes, the Pulchra, the Lacidora parahybana, and so forth. They're going to look generally the same as the females, except when they fully mature, you're going to see a lot of big differences, especially in size, as you see from the B. vagans. There's that mature male that belongs to Brad, which I'm actually going to be mating him very soon with my female. I'm actually going to do it tonight. Female's way down there. She's huge. He's like over 7.5, 8 inches. This is the largest Brachypelma that is available in the hobby. And that's it. So that's the only way you can tell if they're fully mature or not. Now for the mature females, how do you tell them apart? Well, usually I consider mature females fully mature is when they reach their sub-adult to adult size. So generally, sub-adults to adults generally have larger bodied, they're very short-legged, and they generally have large abdomens. Sometimes this is not very visible in your large arboreal species like the pokies. So the rule of thumb to tell if you have a mature female or not, they're sexually mature when they are near full size. So for an example, let's say if you have a P. regalis, a 5 to 6 inch one would be fully breedable. For G. rosea, around 4.5 to 5 inches, then it's fully breedable. Generally, just look at the full sizes and just go about 1.5 inches to around 2 inches from full size. Then you probably can be very confident that it might be sexually mature. And the ones that I studied in captivity, because I just tried my E. capistratus, the pink zebra beauty, to find out if she was mature female or not, is that when you try them out when they're mating and she is receptive towards the male, then that's a very good indication that it's a mature female. This is something I did not describe in the video that I did. Okay, so now that you determined and have an appreciation of what a mature male and a mature female looks like, it's time to understand of the conditions of the mating, how you go about doing it. So I'm going to talk about the time of the day, the conditions met by the mature male and the mature female, and how many times you should mate them. It's a really open debated question. What a perfect example. So let's start with the mature male first. So a mature male is ready to mate when he's doing what is known as a sperm web. I do have a lot of videos on my channel. You've probably seen Brad's mature male do a sperm web and my T. sturmey do one. Generally what they do is that they go upside down and make a web and charge up his pulps with sperm. That's what they do. Normally sperm webs are not seen very often because the mature male actually destroys them right after he makes them. But a good way that he's ready is that you see him right now. You see how he's moving and pacing around the tank a lot? Like he's trying to get out or something? See how he's walking? He's trying to look for Morticia. That's a good indication that your mature male is ready to mate. Now for the mature female, it's kind of difficult to determine when she is ready to mate. Sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes you figured out that she has a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. So for the mature female, it's very important that she's freshly molted. So let's say 2 to 4 weeks right after freshly molted, then that means it's a pretty good specimen. If you try to mate her and she somehow goes into pre-molt, like Gretel does to me, she's not going to be fertile anymore if she does molt out. You'll lose the fertility. Now he's pretty active today, isn't he? And generally you're supposed to keep them well fed. Now generally females are most of the time aggressive towards the males. Sometimes they'll end up killing and eating the male. So it's important that you feed her heavily the week before you mate them. Generally what I do with my females, I give them around 2 or 3 superworms a week, then I can find out that she could be ready. And he's going back into his hole. I also forgot to mention about the mature males is that they have to be freshly molted when you attempt to breed them. If a mature male is way too old, like past 3 or 5 months, then he's probably going to be infertile and your female is just not going to make a sac. Now, I generally mate them around nighttime because that's when they're most active, because tarantulas are nocturnal animals, so that means that they're much more active during the nighttime than in the daytime. I apparently make the feeding videos during the daytime because I just really don't have any good lighting in my bedroom. Now, how many times that you should mate them? Well, it really depends, and it's really open-ended. Sometimes it only takes 1 mating attempt. Sometimes it might take more than 1. So, example, Zelda, my Pyrogalis that you have seen the sac from, and my Tapenkini Santi Vincenti, you see those little babies over there? Well, those were mated 2 times, and I got a sac. Generally, only 1 attempt could also be good for a female to be primed to make an egg sac. A prime example is Jason's mature female Lasiodora parahybana, who he mated with my mature male Pierre, and it only took 1 attempt. But also you have to mimic the conditions in their tea room to mimic the climates that they have in the wild. And I think that's what I did with the T. Santi Vincenti, and I got a viable egg sac in just 2 months. It's like really cool. So my overall opinion before I get on to the sac of how many times you should mate them, I recommend mating the most times as possible until the female decides that she has had enough of the male. That way you have a better chance of developing an egg sac, and a pretty good one at that too. I also forgot to mention that some species, like your P. erminia or Holothele insi, can do what is known as double clutch, meaning that she can produce an egg sac, then she can lay it and you pull it out and you have some slings, and then a couple of months later she can make a second egg sac. That does occur with Psalmopoeus and Holothele insi tarantulas. Now that the conditions of the mating have been established, now how does actually the mating process work? Is it easy or is it difficult? Well, it really depends on species. Some of them are really difficult to mate, like Theraphosis sturmi or Blondie, and some of them are really easy to mate, like Pokes, Tapenikinius, Eupalestris, and Brachypelmus. Okay, so for the mating, I really suggest you probably want to take a big container and leave the female in there, so that way she's fully settled in. You don't want to move her in any way because it might stress her out. So, as you know, Morticia used to be in this 6-liter shoebox enclosure. I decided to put her in this large Phanarium critter keeper by Hagen. It's very long and not as tall, which is a good thing for your terrestrial species. So what I do is that I always introduce the male on the opposite side. You don't want to go in front of her because that might spook her, and either she's going to run off or she might attack the male. So the male is going to come, he's going to start drumming as you've seen in the mating attempt videos, and then if the female is very receptive, she's going to drum back. And if she doesn't drum back, maybe she's not fully ready yet, or maybe she's just having a bad day. And if that's the case, it's probably a good idea to try again another day. Sometimes you can be very lucky during the mating, sometimes you're not. So yeah, this is Morticia. She's the female vagans that we're going to mate. I'm just going to give her 1 superworm before we start to breed them again. And then once that happens, you'll see the male lift up the female with his 2 front legs, and then this is why they have tibal hooks. The tibal hooks on some of the species, not all of them have it, is to secure the fangs so that way the female doesn't attack the male when he does his business. And where he's going to inject the sperm into her epigastric furrow, which we come to know that in the molt, that is your spermatheca, and that's the sperm sac. That's where she stores the sperm, so that way she can produce her eggs. Okay, so now the mating process generally can range in time from being very short, between 5 to 15 minutes, maybe even 20, or it could take almost hours to a full day, as in the case of pokies or GBB. Those mating rituals are extremely long, as you saw in my mating video of Zelda that I did in August. All the male did was drum, the female was responsive, and every time that the female was close to the male would skimper around and try again. So in cases like this, it's probably recommended that you just leave them overnight and remove them the next day, so long that the male doesn't get eaten. But in generally, most of the cases of mating, you know, like if you're mating your G-rosea or your B. smithi, for example, or your avic, it's probably ideal to actually supervise the mating and get the male out as soon as possible when he's done. That way, when you supervise the mating, you have the advantage knowing that he actually did his job and you saw the insertion. And also you have the advantage of saving the male from getting eaten by the female. That's certainly a plus. Now for the gestation periods. I don't know much about gestation periods because I didn't breed enough species in my personal experience. You've seen H. maculata, I had a sac in 3 months. Zelda took around 5 months to produce her egg sac, whereas my Sancti Vincenti did her egg sac in 2. So it really depends of your species. So what I do is I usually look up arachnid boards, I look up the breeding reports, and pretty much I see what I have. Like for example, P. cancerides takes around 6 months to do a egg sac, and they're pretty fast developing too. So now I'm going to talk about the sac. So how do you know when your female is going to leave the sac? And I'll go into the depth of leaving them with mom versus the incubator. Okay, so whenever a tarantula is gravid, meaning pregnant, she's going to exhibit very similar conditions and behaviors as you've probably seen in pre-molt. She's not going to have drabby colors, but she's not going to eat very much, and she's not going to, be very active. She's going to hide a lot. She's probably going to make profuse web building. So if you notice in pregnant women just weeks before their pregnancy, you notice that their stomachs become bloated. This is exactly seen in tarantulas with their abdomens. So this is a good example of a tarantula that's likely to be very gravid. This is my Pandora, my other P. regalis. As you can see, she's drumming too. If you notice how big her abdomen is, she really might be primed. She's not eating very much, and I notice that she likes to hide behind that log all the time. So I think that's where she might going to drop her egg sac. So when the tarantula does make her egg sac, you'll notice that she's going to make profuse web building, just like Jason's mature female. And generally they're going to lay their eggs, and you notice that the abdomen is going to shrink in size. So that's pretty good. So now about leaving the sac with mom and the incubator. Okay, so it's really an open debated questions, and it's really, again, species specific. Sometimes it's good to leave the sac with the mom, sometimes it's not. Generally, arboreal tarantulas are very slow developing species. So it's probably in your best interest to leave the sac in with the mom. Sometimes RobC always pulls the egg sacs out, and that's what I did with mine. Generally, if you're going to do that, you probably want to pull it out 1 month after she lays the sac. So as you saw in my video where I did the P. regalis sac, I showed you that she first made her sac on December 24th, then I pull it out on the 26th. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of pulling the egg sac? Well, one, as I wrote this in my comments, the advantages is that it will not be eaten and destroyed by the mom. And secondly, you can control the temperatures and humidity conditions a lot better. That's because you have the incubator. Now the disadvantage is that if you pull it too early, this can reduce the egg sac count, which is true. And then you are prone to mold issues and bad eggs, since you need to keep them at a very high humidity level, which is true because I did get some bad eggs out of this. And also you have to keep them separate and then rotate the eggs once in a while to make sure that they don't clump together. So that's very, very important. So to tell whether or not you have your good eggs or bad eggs, you have to look at the eggs. So let's go have a look at the eggs, shall we? So these eggs are 84 days old. Most of them are fully developed first instars. Some of them, like this one, are actually molting. I do have one dead one I had to throw out. But generally, you can see this egg right over here, it's really not coming out clear on the camera, even though it's HD. At this one here, it's starting to become an egg with legs. You can see it's a lot more darker. This egg right over here, the black ones, as a result, that's a bad egg. This egg right over here, it's likely to be infertile. Or just have to wait until they're fully developed. Those eggs might be a little bit slow. But generally, if your eggs are very clear, as in the case, mature females have been known to produce phantom egg sacs, as we've seen from my Tapnicinius gigas and my Vicularia lata. I guess the conditions were right for them to produce an egg sac. Those are infertile. Now the second topic is leaving them with mom. So the advantage is that mom knows best at raising her slings. She rolls the eggs and so that they're not clumped up. Exactly what it's shown right over here. Let me get my flashlight so you can see all of them. Kind of hard to see, but they're all there. All first instar spiderlings. Sweet. Secondly, you will have a better egg sac count, which is true because Tarantula Canada told me to leave them in there with the mother. And seeing though that this is an extremely rare species here in North America, I'd rather trust their advice. And then the other plus is that there's no need to make an incubator and monitor the eggs like crazy. Mom knows best and she does that for you. Which is true. You don't have to set them in the incubator. You just let her take care of it for you. A lot easier. But it does come with some disadvantages. Mainly, mom could eat her sac if she's disturbed too much. Under no circumstance you should ever feed a female that has an egg sac. Because if you feed her too much and disturb her too much, it might actually cause her to become very stressed and she actually might eat the eggs if she's disturbed too much. Secondly, you'll be needing to missing her cage very frequently to keep the humidity levels up. This is very important, and this is the mistake that I made with the Heteroscodra maculata sac. I kept it way too dry. So I had to literally block the ventilation a little bit so that way you have a lot more humidity in there and not them escaping. And what I did is I just poured water over the substrate. As you can see, the top layer is dry, but look at the bottom layer, how moist it is. And that's where all the humidity is going to concentrate on the eggs. So that way they're going to fully develop much more faster that way. It was pretty good because she noticed that we made the sac in February and it's now the 14th of March and already we got first instar spiderlings. So within, I guess, a couple of weeks, they'll become second instars. Awesome. Now, if you do choose to do the incubator, here's the setup. It's very simple, and actually made a video of this on January 25th, the day before I removed the P. regalis egg sac, and I'll link it to the video description. Basically, it's just a 10 to 15 liter Sterlite container. All I did was make some air holes, about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch, all around. Put some paper towels on the bottom, and I missed them. As you can see, there's one first instar spiderling that's on there. And the container is just an ordinary margarine container that you can get from the grocery store. So what I did is I filled it up halfway with water, and then I put cheesecloth around the top. Then I secured it with a rubber band, so that way the slings do not fall into the water. And that's where they get the humidity. For first instar spiderlings, you can't feed them because they're not capable of eating it. You have to wait until they molt again into their second instar spiderlings. And I said in my other video, second instar spiderlings are your typical ones that you'll see on online dealers labeled as 1/2 inches. And that's when they'll have fully developed hair and they'll look like real actual spiderlings. So generally what I do to feed them, I'll probably give them either pinhead crickets or flightless fruit flies. It's a great way to feed a tea that's between 1/8 of an inch to around 1/2 inch. So maintaining the eggs, you have to make sure that you have to keep them well cleaned. I just showed you as an example. I'm going to have to clean this up, remove any of those bad eggs like you see right over here, and any of the molted skins. And generally if you keep them clean, you'll have no deaths and they'll survive a lot better. So, and then once they're ready as fully developed second instar slings, you probably want to feed them a little more, so that way you can get them well started, and then you can sell them off to whoever wants them. They're very little cute guys, aren't they? I love them. Alright, so I do hope you enjoyed this lovely Mythbuster video of everything you need to know about how to make your tarantula, how to get the eggs, and how to raise them until actual spiderlings. And I hope this helped a lot for people who want to try to do this. I assure you, it's a very good experience and convinced me to breed more tarantulas. That's for sure. So hope you enjoy it, everyone, and thanks for watching.